Hey, y'all. Happy Sunday to you. Hope everybody's doing okay. Sorry for the abrupt beginning, but I've had some things going on in the background and wasn't able to get. I'm going to do a little video pre roll for this. Instead of just that graphic coming up, there's going to be a video pre roll. And, it'll be a few minutes long to let notifications go out and all that other good stuff. So, welcome aboard. It is open Q&A today. It's I kind of confused matters a little bit. I'm going to be gone for a few days next week, and with scheduling conflicts and what have you, I went ahead and this week did next week's video, which will be taking the template we made in the stack text video from last week, loading that template up, changing fonts, changing names, changing dates, all that other good stuff, then recalculating toolpaths. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a preview of coming attractions, the first video was about 53 minutes long, and I know that's a long, boring, dry video. Using the template just to show you some comparison and how quick things are, it's 19 minutes, and I went slow. I did a few things I didn't really need to do to kind of pad it out a little bit, but just to give you the comparison, the hard work is getting your original design set up. And once you take the time and you do that, loading that template, it's just bam, 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 bam. I mean, I can do it in less than 10 minutes. So, but that's next week. Then to confuse matters, I uploaded the video and got it set. It's scheduled to go live next Sunday. I went ahead and I scheduled next week's live Q&A, and I had a bunch of people jump in over there. So I don't know if they're still sitting over there waiting for me to go live or not. Well, it says there's two people waiting. One of them is me. So, what can I say? So it's open Q&A. If you've got anything at all you'd like to ask about Vectric Software or just whatever, we can handle it. Go ahead and put it in the chat here and we'll get going. Suicidal at all times just dropped his burrito on the floor. Sour cream all over the power plugs. This is what I mean when I say some days I'm just happy to be up and out of bed without a helmet on. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I mean, maybe not sour cream, but yeah, I've been there. So let's get up here and see if we have any questions going. I know there were a couple, and I just gotta find it now. And people talking about doing landscaping questions. Okay, Suicidal at All Times has a question. Is there a way of setting laser power output G-code with Aspire? That I do not know. Now, understand that with the new version 10.5, a separate and distinct laser package was developed. There is an additional cost to it, but that laser package, I'm not 100% certain what all is involved or included in that. There may be ways to adjust the laser power output within that laser package, but I'm not 100% certain. I know that's been a topic of discussion as far as regulating output to where you're just engraving or you're trying to cut through the material. But I'm really not certain if that's included in that package or not. My advice would be to go over to the Vectric support forum. And if you're using Vectric software and you're not a member of the support forum, you're really doing yourself a disservice. I encourage everybody to go over there, register, and go through that support forum with questions like this, because a few of the members are Vectric employees, but a good number of the beta testing team are also members. And just regular users like you and me are also members over there. And I mean, there are some real wizards over there. If you open up your Cut 2D, Vcarve, Aspire, whatever, and you go up to the help menu and click about, you will see the panel that shows you which version you're using and everything. And then there's a list of names of all the people who have helped make the software possible and make it what it is. You will recognize a lot of those names over there on the support forum. I mean, these guys have forgotten more than I have ever learned about the software. So I encourage everybody to get over there and register and participate. I try to do what I can to help. I'm geared mainly towards the absolute beginner, but for more advanced questions like that, I don't have a laser, so I can't really answer that question. But there are a bunch of people over there that do have lasers, and they can set you on the right track. So let's see. Let's get in here. Lots of people doing landscaping projects. Oh boy. Let's see here. David Tate. I have retired and thinking of getting into CNC. Well, welcome aboard. I'm looking at a large 5x10 and using Vectric software. How easy is it to pick up? I am not an expert on any software. I'm definitely not a CNC expert. 7 years ago, I had never been in the same building with a CNC router. I am, however, an expert at attempting to learn software. I was introduced to the PC and AutoCAD the same week in 1997. And I've got to tell you that Vectric software has the gentlest learning curve of anything that I have attempted to learn. And I'm serious. If I can do this, you can certainly do it. My unsolicited free advice would be to go over to Vectric's website, choose the package that you're most interested in, and download the free trial. And get into the tutorials and just start learning. The time to start learning the software is yesterday. That's the right day to start. And as you go through the tutorials and you get used to how things are set up, and you get used to where the tools are and your limitations and the software's limitations, because no package is 100% perfect, it becomes second nature. It really is. It's the gentlest learning curve of any software package I've tried to learn. So I'm a big fan. I'm a major fan. So I hope that answers that question. Your second question, should I also be thinking of Aspire? That depends on what you're going to be doing. There is a comparison of all the software packages and what they do. If you are going to be creating your own 3D models, then yes, you would need Aspire or some other 3D modeling program that you can use to create a 3D model and import into Vcarve. They all have their place. They all have their limitations. But it's more a case of what you intend on doing. Now, one of the great things about Vectric as a company is if you start with a smaller package Let's say, for instance, you start with Vcarve Pro and you want to later upgrade to Aspire. They give you credit for what you've already spent on Vcarve. So you don't pay full retail. You just pay the difference in price. And it's the same thing with, say, Vcarve Desktop and then upgrade to Vcarve Pro. You are credited with what you have already paid for the software you're currently using. So you don't pay full-blown retail. And not a lot of companies do that. So I would suggest you get into the free trials and get into the tutorials and start learning now. So just my opinion, but I'm a major fan of Vectric Software. Let's see here now. Let's see. Russell Faraday, projecting Vcarve to curved surfaces is cool. Yes, it does. Does it work for inlays? In what respect? Are you talking about making a V-carved inlay on, say, a dome shape or something like that? That's something that I would have to look into because I've never done that. That would be an interesting top. I'm going to write that down. I don't have an answer for you, but that's something to go on the to-do list. Let's see. Inlay on a curved surface. That's intriguing. Of course, you could just do a standard inlay and then carve the 3D on top of it. But I can see what you're saying if you have a piece that's like got a dome top or something and you want to put an inlay in that dome top. Interesting. I'd have to, I don't know, but it's something I'm going to play with. Okay, let's see. Kool-Aid wants to know, I trammed my spindle and went to cut and noticed I have a high spot on the board. Where is the best spot to zero the spindle on the board? High side or center of the board? If your spoil board isn't flat, you need to surface it. And what I do is I get a measurement on where the high point is and where the low point is. And then you got to kind of do a little bit of mental arithmetic, and because it depends on how much you're going to have to take off. If you've got to take off a large amount, you'll want to start at the high side and work your way down. If you have a small amount, less than, say, a 1/16 of an inch, I would start at the low point and, set my zero there and then machine my way through it. But it just depends on how much material you have to take off. So I hope that answers that. Okay, Reload and Shoot has an answer. He says he has the laser package and Vectric does allow adjusting speed and power. Okay, I thought that might be the case, but I wasn't 100% sure because I don't have the laser package. But that is an add-on that you purchase through Vectric and add to either Vcarve or Aspire. I'm not sure if it's for Cut 2D. I really don't know. So, let's see what's going on here. And let's go back and find it. It just jumped. Okay. Woody Wan wants to know, greetings from Connecticut, greetings from Oregon. I know you don't use much Corian, but have any of the others out there know if bit life, a mana versus Y side is reduced due to hardness? Using 18K RPM, 50 to 100 inches per minute, I'm assuming, and shallow cuts. I've not cut Corian on the CNC, but I have routed it with just handheld routers and on router tables and what have you. And tool wear is roughly the same as wood. So to me, bits are consumable items. That's why I don't really have any kind of a brand loyalty. I know bits are going to dull, and I know I'm going to replace them. If you are going to be cutting Corian, you might look into a coated solid carbide bit, but I haven't really noticed any again, in my experience in routing it, working at countertop shops and cabinet shops and everything, I didn't notice any excessive wear. Of course, we didn't have bits that were dedicated to Corian versus bits that were dedicated to wood. They were used for everything. And when they went dull, we sent them out and got them sharpened. And then when they needed replacing, they needed replacing. But I didn't notice any real difference in tool life. So let's see. Steve Russell says, if this is answered in next week's video, then I'm ahead of myself. Nevertheless, in using templates, can you have elements in the templates that you use sometimes and not use other times, e.g. flourish? Yes. Yes, you certainly can. You are the ultimate decider on see, I don't generally show saving G code either. You are the ultimate decider on what tool paths get saved to G code that you take out and use. And you can also just turn off a layer and not calculate that layer. But I don't really get into that in the next video, but I will. That's something that, because there are going to be a couple more parts to this series, because there are a couple of other ways of getting the same result. Somebody asked me about 3D modeling. And so unless Michael, hint, hint, would like to take the mantle of doing stacked text in Aspire as a 3D model with some additional 3D elements involved. If Michael doesn't do it, I will. So how's that for an answer? Let's see. Let's see if we got any more here. Bob Frails, understand you do not provide feed rates, but looking for generic guidance. I sometimes get bit chatter in the climb direction, but not in the conventional direction. Should I avoid any bit chatter? Some bit chatter is almost impossible to eliminate, because you're absolutely right. If you're cutting in a offset pattern, when you go one direction, you're cutting with the grain conventional. You go another direction, you're cutting against the grain as you go around and cutting climb. So in that case, it's kind of do the best you can. You're going to get a little bit of chatter no matter what you do, but if you can reduce it, all the better. I mean, that may be slowing down the feed rate just a little bit, or that may be increasing your RPMs just a little bit. Just remember that you're supposed to be making chips, not dust. But a little bit of chatter is unavoidable. It depends on the degree. I mean, if the bit is screaming, obviously, or you're getting a rough result, then you maybe need to slow down your feed rate. And I know that means longer machining times, but the trade-off is shorter sanding and cleanup times. I'd much rather spend an extra hour on the machine than 3 hours sanding and cleaning up after the fact. So, it's up to you. I'm pretty conservative. My CNC guru, Dave Gatton, is here in the chat. How you doing, Dave? And he taught me that it's better to start slow and increase feed rate on the fly than it is to start too fast and have to try to slow that sucker down before it destroys stuff. So the feed rates that you see in my programs are a very conservative starting point. I use Mach 3 and I can increase my feed rate as it's cutting. And I prefer to do that. See how the bit is reacting to the wood and how the wood is reacting to the bit. And do I need to speed things up or slow things down or what have you? But I figure it's easier to speed things up than it is to destroy something and slow it down. So, Be Danger 123. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Your comment is gratefully accepted, and I appreciate it very much. Believe me. So let me go back up here and see if I can find some more questions here. Larry Blair kind of echoed. He's used Mastercam for years. Vectric Software is awesome. I agree 100%. I'm a major fan. Lewis Denton, he's 83 and new, making significant progress. Go for it. I'm telling you, if I can do this, you certainly can, And let's see, Russell Faraday says, I have yet to master flat inlays, but my ideas run in my head of my ability. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Get out of my head. It's dark and scary in there. It's just the case. I mean, I have more ideas than a tail feather on a turkey farm. It's just crazy. And the problem is I will never live long enough to get all of my ideas made. So I have to pick my battles. I mean, what can I say? So let's see. John Sautier, can you explain a little about shape height and base height? Okay, let me start a new session of Aspire over here and get a project set up before I do that. Kind of caught me unaware here. I have last week's project open, but not a new one. So let me get something up here, and it doesn't really matter what it is. I'll just use let's use the bald eagle. All right. And now I get to go over here to this control and share my screen and find that. Kaboom. All right. Let's go over here. I have just a bald eagle out here in my drawing, and we'll go over to the modeling tab. I have the model selected, and what he's referring to is the shape height and the base height. Okay, if we look over here in the 3D view, we can see we have the representation of the surface. This is the modeling plane. The modeling plane is where the model is built up from. Okay. So this is technically where the base of the model is sitting. So the shape height is from the modeling plane, from the base of the model, its elevation. So if I increase the shape height, the base stays put, but the shape is increased. If I reduce, the base stays put, and the shape height is decreased. Now, the base height, imagine this is a freestanding piece that you're going to cut out. It's kind of like an additional thickness under the model. So right now we have a base height of 0. If I bring that up to its max of 3/8 of an inch, you see how that was suddenly lifted up. We now have 3/8 of an inch from the modeling plane up to where the actual model starts. So the shape height is measured from that base to its highest point in the model itself. The base height is additional material under the model, if that makes sense. Let's take that back down to 0.0, let it update, and you see what I'm talking about there. And I hope that answers your question there. I hope that's what you were referring to. Let me kind of cruise down here and catch up. Okay. Michael Mazalik just says, I can, if you'd like, give me about 2 weeks. No pressure, Michael. I just didn't see. Michael and I have kind of a relationship. This is inside baseball. It's really boring and nobody cares. But Michael and I have this relationship. We don't want to step on each other's toes. He is the 3D guru. I'm telling you, he is my 3D Obi-Wan. And I don't know what he's doing behind the scenes. I don't know what he has planned. So I don't want to jump on a video that he's got waiting in the wings. And he does the same with me. So, you know, it was just a suggestion, Michael. Do it if you'd like. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But there you go. And we're talking about the text on text as a 3D component. So it's actually very cool. And it helps me out because that's one less video I have to make. Okay. Jeff at JMM Love Dance, I've done Vcarve inlays with Corian as the male, maple for the pocket. I've not done enough to speak to bitware. I will say that it does cut very well with white side bits. Corian machines very well. It routes basically like a medium density wood. In fact, maple, I think, is a little bit harder than Corian is. You know, hard maple, that is. Not something like soft maple, silver maple, or something like that. But it's been my experience that it does. It machines like a dream. It really does. So, I mean, you know, don't be afraid of it. And try it. Get some scrap. Go hit a countertop shop and ask them for some Corian sink cutouts or just drop that you can throw on your table and carve up, you know. That's something that I want to do. Is I want to do some Vcarve in Corian and then do epoxy inlays in them. So I just haven't got there yet. So IL Peleg says, I would love to actually see how real chips look versus dust. Oh boy, I will look for the video link. It's a YouTube short that was done on, I want to say, Creative Custom Carvings YouTube channel. He just posted a video of a super slow motion view of his router bit throwing chips off of the bit as it's cutting. And it was like, God, I can't remember how. I want to say it was like 30,000 frames per second equivalent. It was digitally slowed down. But you can get a good look at what the chips look like. And that's what chip load is. You pick up one of the chips it's cutting and you measure with the measure with a caliper, and you're measuring the thickness of the chip. Basically, if dust is floating in the air, you're either got too high a RPM or too slow of a feed rate. So, but the chip load is the thickness of the chip that's coming off of the bit. So, let's see here. Russell Faraday, how deep roughing passes are reasonable for a 1/4 inch upcut bit? Standard starting point is half of the bit's cutting diameter. Now, if you have a robust machine, you can go the bit's diameter, but a good starting point is half of the bit's cutting diameter. And then you can adjust from there. Believe me, you'll find the limit, snap, and then know that was too much. But I try not to push it more than half of the bit's diameter. Cutting diameter, that is, not the shank diameter, the cutting diameter. But then again, that's kind of arbitrary as well. I can't really say that because, for instance, if you have a 1/4 inch shank, 1 inch diameter surfacing bit, maybe your machine can't handle half of that cutting diameter, which would be a 1/2 inch. I mean, that's kind of iffy. So just experiment, but be on the conservative side. So, but for a 1/4 inch upcut bit, I start with 1/8 of an inch. And if you want to bump it up, and experiment with it, and also pay attention to the finish that comes off of the machine, because yeah, it's great to cut, in a single pass, but not if you're going to spend half of your life cleaning up after it. So, but let's see. Dave says StreamYard is looking great. It's a new experience, but thank you. I appreciate that feedback. And, I'm going to stick with it. I'm not having the problems audio or video that I was having with OBS. So I think I'm sold on it. So let's see what's going on here. We please suggest a PC for this and Artcam. I would refer you to the manufacturer's website and see what the minimum system requirements are. But it doesn't take a huge amount of computer. It will not take advantage of the GPU and a big video card. It basically uses your CPU and RAM. So don't invest in a high-speed video card for this software, because it's just not necessary. But generally, any modern PC will run it. So let's see. Let's see, Lewis Denton. I designed a rectangular sign with the inside radii and border 1/2 inch inside the perimeter. Tried using inside offset and found that the radii are not downsized. No, they are not. Had to create a newer, smaller rectangle. Yes, that is correct. When you offset, you're reducing the size. You're also reducing the radius. So, or you're not reducing the radius. So, let's see. Snap is a heartbreaking sound. Just saying. Yes, it's a heartbreaking sound. So is clink. That's the sound of a 23 thousandths end mill hitting a concrete floor as you're taking it out of the shipping tube that it came in and never chucked it in the router. It just makes a little clink sound, and you have a 3-piece router bit. So, layers or levels, what's the difference? There's a major difference. Let me go ahead and share again and go back into Spire. And okay, close that. Your layers are in reference to your 2D view. They are layers to the drawing. Levels over here are 3D components. You have different levels of 3D components. For instance, I have this bald eagle here, and if I come over and I add a dish and I expand that out, I know this is an absolute mess, Michael. Okay, my dome dish is above my eagle in levels. The software always models from the bottom up. So it's going to model that eagle and then the dome. Well, the dome's on top of it. Not only do I want a dish, I want the eagle on top of the dish. So first, let's take that to subtract. And then let's drag that down below the eagle. And we will set the combine mode to add. We're good. And there we go. But when the dome dish is above the eagle, it still looks okay. Well, actually, that does look okay. That does look okay. Well, this was a bad example. Let me change it back into a dome. It still looks okay. Michael? That actually does look all right. Well, anyway, this was a bad example, but you get my point. What I'm getting at is the levels have to do with 3D modeling. It's where each component is placed in line, and the software models from the bottom up. So the components you want on the top should be higher up in the list than the components you want pushed back down towards the bottom. Layers have nothing to do with 3D modeling. Well, I guess they could. No, they don't have anything to do with 3D modeling. They are for 2D vectors. So you can keep your drawing better organized. And if you saw last week's video, you know what I mean by keeping them organized. So let me come back up here and stop sharing my screen. So did that help you at all there, Bill? Sorry. Suicidal at all times says he's found his limits many times. Yep. Your video is blurry. Click on the little gear for settings and check the resolution. Make sure that you're got the highest resolution there. See, Russell Faraday, you're cutting 6 millimeters deep with no problem. Best not much go deep. You can experiment. I mean, it just depends on it just depends on how badly you want to push it. So let's see. Mr. Coffee Paul, is Artcam still supported by Autodesk? That would be a question for Autodesk. I really don't know. I have no experience with Artcam or Mastercam or any of the other big CAD cam. I did try to learn Rhino, and I got a little bit into SolidWorks, but it's not the type of 3D work that I want to do. So I've never used Artcam. That would be a question for Autodesk. So Jack Matson, thank you very much for the super chat. I really, really do appreciate that. You guys are the best viewers on YouTube. I'm telling you. Let's see. Oops. 3-piece router bit. Look at the bright side. You now have a really short bit. Yeah, microscopically short. Broke my heart. I now have an old mouse pad, and I lay that down on the table and I open small bits over that mouse pad for just that reason. So, yeah, Steve Russell. Ow is the sound you make when you loosen the collet too far in the 30-degree V bit and collet drop into your hand. Yeah, that is one way of putting it. Ow is also the sound you make when you think you have the collet loosened up and you grab that downcut or upcut spiral and try to pull it out and it don't move, but your hand does, and you slice your fingers. So I'm told. Yeah, right. You say that as well. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Marvin Hayes. Can I load a dovetail bit in the tool database? Yes and no. Yes and no. You can load it into the database, but you have to enter it as an end mill because the way the 3D view and the preview are drawn within the software, it will not let you enter a bit that has an undercut. And a dovetail bit creates an undercut. So what you'll have to do is take your cutting length and the bottom cutting diameter of that dovetail bit and use those as your criteria for entering it as an end mill. And in the notes or in the title of the name of the bit, put in that it's a dovetail bit. I did do a video on entering a keyhole bit into the database, and I will link that in the description of this video as soon as we're done live. It's similar. It's very similar process. The only difference is the shape of the bit. But I show how to enter and use a keyhole bit because the software won't let you enter a keyhole bit either. So, but you can kind of cheat the system. Blackland Grass. Thank you very much for the super chat. Boy, you guys are doing wow. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. So, let's see. I think I'm caught up with. Okay, Blackland Grass said, PC Builder here. Memory and CPU speed are your friend, at least 32 gig. Are you talking RAM or are you talking CPU speed? I run with 64 gigabyte and it screams. Again, are you talking about process? I've been out of PCs for so long, it's not even funny. I've got 16 gig of RAM in this computer and I have no issues at all. So, let's see. Is there a better choice than a 1/4-inch end mill for roughing cuts? Depends on what you're doing. If you're making something very, very small, an 1/8 inch may be better. If you're making something very large, you can go with one of these 1/2 inch behemoths or something larger. I mean, 1/4-inch end mill is what I tend to demonstrate because that's the most common. About, I would say about 90% of the cutting I've done has been on something less than 12 inches tall and shorter than about 18 inches wide. Not all, obviously, but the overwhelming majority has been something of about that size. And there's just not a lot of need for large bits. Now, if you're surfacing slabs or something like that, or you're making large 3D reliefs, then yeah, by all means. But do know that things like this half-inch spiral downcut bit are pricey. And, it's kind of like we used to say in hot rodding, speed costs money. How fast do you want to go? Well, it's the same thing with bits. Bigger is more expensive, and it may or may not necessarily be better. But sure, Let's see. Is there any tool or idea to convert a 3D model in Aspire to 2D? Not just the outline around the model, but also in deep areas that we can carve the same model with round over bit as well. About the best I could say would be if you could save that image as a bitmap and then do a bitmap trace, you could convert 3D to 2D. But I can't think of any tool that is specific for converting a 3D model to a 2D vector drawing. I may be wrong there, but I can't think of it unless it would be just to save it as a bitmap. Yeah, and then do a bitmap trace. Sorry. Let's see. Did my first keyhole cut this past week following Mark's video. Thank you. Worked like a champ. Thank you. And you're welcome for that video. That is probably, no, not probably, it is. That is the only G code that I have saved. Normally, I use G code one time to do that project, and then I delete that G code. And I do that for me. I know if I'm going to recut that project, the piece of material is probably not going to be exactly the same. And the bits that I use are probably not going to be exactly the same. So I'll go back to the drawing, do any corrections and any changes in like material size or what have you, and then save new G code. The exception to that is the keyhole. I did with the XY datum set to the center, I did a 3/4 inch tall vertical keyhole, a 1 inch tall vertical keyhole. Then I did a 2 inch wide horizontal keyhole and a 3 inch wide horizontal keyhole. And I saved those G codes and I use those. They are still on the computer outside. So anytime I need a keyhole, I can just mount the material, measure down where I want it, measure over, find the center, mark that, set my XY0 to that point, and then cut the keyhole. And it just, plunge in, moves, and then plunges back out. So very simple. Let's see. Okay, I think we're about caught up. Let's see. We've been on for, 51 minutes. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. On a personal note, first of all, I want to thank everybody who has contributed to the GoFundMe that has been set up for Dave Gatton, who is recovering from a quadruple bypass open heart surgery. And I would like to encourage you, if you have not donated, every little bit helps. We really do appreciate it. I know Dave appreciates it, and I personally appreciate it. There's a link to that GoFundMe down in the description of this video right now. And if you can spare a few dollars, I know that Dave, again, would certainly appreciate it. And I personally would appreciate it. I mean, this guy has given so much to the CNC community. And in my case, if it wasn't for him, none of this would be happening right now. I mean, he is my CNC guru. He is. I'm his fault. Let's just say it that way. So thank you to those who have kicked in and contributed. I appreciate it more than you'll know. And to everybody who would like to contribute, the link to that GoFundMe is down in the description of this video. I also, on a personal note, I hope, excuse me, still having allergies this time of year. I would also like to cordially invite everybody over to Michael Mazalik's video at, see, it'll be 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. This week, he's going to show us how to 3D model a baseball in Aspire. But if I know Michael, it's never just that easy. He's going to be throwing in something else. So if you have Aspire and you're not subscribed to Michael's YouTube channel, there's a link down in the description of this video right now. Get over there and get in line to watch this premiere and subscribe to Michael's channel. He is the artist. He is the 3D artist. I'm telling you. So that's going to be it for this week. I'd like to thank everybody for joining. All of you folks who have hit that super chat, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. All of you folks who have hit those donate links down in the description. And oh, Robert, did you really have to do that to me? See you over at Michael's video. Y'all take care. Have a good Sunday.